Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink, it is time for some PathOfExile discussion. Today was day 9 of spoiler season for patch 3.20 and the Forbidden Sanctum League. And today we got one medium-sized piece of news and a bunch of smaller things, plus a teaser for potentially one of the best flasks in the game, more on that later, and also some important information about bugs. So firstly, the Forbidden Sanctum Challenge rewards have been revealed. They're entirely in a video that I will link to down below on the GGG official PathOfExile channel, and that's worth having a look at. These challenge rewards are going to follow the same system that was introduced in 3.19, where there are going to be 4 different rewards that you'll get. You'll get a tier 1 version of them really early in progression, tier 2 a bit later, tier 3 a bit later, and then tier 4 will require doing almost all of the challenges to unlock. And the tier 4 versions will be a shinier version of the tier 1, 2, and 3 versions. So that's the challenge rewards. The next thing of note is that there's been a couple of changes to the patch notes. These entail a buff to the unique caster dagger Divinarius. Now, fair warning, this is being made into an Uber chase item in 3.20. We don't know exactly how rare it is, but it does sound like, from the way it was talked about in the spoiler livestream, that this is possibly going to be a Headhunter/Mageblood rarity. It's not quite as good as those items, but it is very, very good now. So it is going to have 150 to 200% increased spell damage. The previous in-game version was 50 to 70, and the previously spoiled version was 100 to 150%. So basically, this is getting even better stats than what originally planned. Those of you that play in Standard, all you're going to need is an existing Divinarius plus a Divine Orb, and you'll be able to get the new stats. Now, there are also changes to Essentia Sanguis, which is getting a bit more lightning damage as well. This is a claw that in the current version of the game gives 1 to 200 lightning damage. That is being buffed to 1 minimum to 600 to 700 maximum, depending upon Divine Orb roll. That thing is getting buffed out of sight. Even though there are a couple of nerfs to less important stats on that item, it is getting buffed out of sight overall. Those are the 2 major changes to the patch notes. Next, there was a teaser given as to the new way that elemental resistance indicators are going to exist on monsters. So these are going to be non-red if the monster is resistant to that type of elemental damage, and they're going to be in red if the monster has unusually low resistances to that type of element. I think that's something that will take a little bit of getting used to, but will probably be superior to the current setup, where they just add a lot of extra text that then gets in the way when you're trying to parse the real mods on the rare monster. And we've got the big one, Oriath's End. This is a flask that is going to drop from Uber Sirus, and it is a monster of a flask. This is phenomenal. It has increased charge recovery, and this means that because of its long base duration, you are probably going to be able to keep this up all of the time. This is only a bismuth flask, which I think is one of the least useful flasks for players in general. However, this has one massive mod on it. Enemies you kill during effect have a 28% chance to explode, dealing 1/10 of their maximum life as damage of a random element. Now, effects that modify flask effect on your character, it is my reading of this, and this has not been absolutely confirmed, but if you had 25% increased effect of flasks on you, then 28% would scale up to 35%, but 1/10 of their maximum life as damage of a random element would not scale up to 1/8 of their maximum life as damage of a random element. This flask is incredibly good. It's not so much that one of these explosions will wipe out an entire pack, although it can certainly do a lot of damage, especially if you're causing this damage to ignite through the use of the Elementalist Ascendancy's Shaper of Flame notable. What makes this really impressive is when you've got a pack that contains a bunch of different monsters in it, and they have different life totals. You deliver some massive skill that kills a few of them, but doesn't kill all of the rest. Then those ones that you killed, some of those will explode, and those explosions may take out the more resilient monsters that are there. If you then take out one magic monster and its corpse explodes, then chances are you've just decimated the entire pack. This item is definitely going to be a chase item. It is confirmed to drop only from the Uber version of the Sirus encounter. A couple of last clarifications. There is a significant bug with combustion support, and this is a fairly bad one. GGG are working on a fix for this, but it was introduced when they made some changes to improve game performance, and at that point they ended up causing this bug that is pretty serious. So you'll see on combustion that enemies ignited by supported skills have negative 10% to fire resistance. This actually only applies at the moment if the ignite is dealing damage. This means that if you have multiple ignites on an enemy, what is meant to happen, what is the intended behavior, is that all of those ignites are present on the enemy, but only the one that is doing the most DPS is actually inflicting that damage to them. However, all of the ignites are present, and if you've just got a little tiny ignite that's linked to combustion support, the monster should have minus 10% penalty to fire resistance. That's the intended behavior. It's not what's happening at the moment. You're only getting that minus 10% to fire resistance if the skill that inflicted the ignite is linked to combustion support itself. This is something GGG want to fix, but they're trying to fix it in a way that doesn't impair game performance. Basically, this means Ignite skills are going to do less damage than Path of Building indicates they do. However, this is not some new change, and this is the case. If you have played an Ignite build in 3.18, 3.19, it's going to do the same damage it dealt then because this bug was in place then. Finally, I reached out to Bex for a little bit of clarification related to divination cards that give unique jewels after all of the changes that were made to unique jewels and a recent FAQ. The long and the short of it, the divination card, the Garish Power, will continue to award a random unique jewel, but this card will be significantly rarer in 3.20 than it has been in the past. My understanding of a reply is that the divination card, the Eye of the Dragon, will no longer award a drop anywhere unique jewel with one Val implicit on it. Instead, it will award one of the jewels that is a corruption exclusive unique jewel. So for example, this might grant you one of the attribute transforming jewels. The Sustenance Divination card will no longer be acquirable because energy from within, while it's remaining in the game, it is no longer going to be possible to get it as a 2 implicit corrupted item. So this has been drop disabled pending a rework in patch 3.21, and the Long Watch has also been drop disabled pending a rework in patch 3.21. Anyways, that's all I got on the news today. May Varlorbs have interesting results, and I'm going to go back to writing my early league currency guide that entails using ROG in order to make yourself a lot of currency at league start. May your Varlorbs have interesting results.